So what's the first step in applying some GlueTread patches? I realized we put a hole here, which is a pretty actually nice place to put it now that I'm looking at it. But like, what if a hole was over here on the letters? Like how do you?
Totally, great question. So the first thing, I mean, there's a few things you want to keep in mind when you're going through this process. The first thing is you got to be able to prep, right? You got to make sure that you have a smooth surface to put the patch on.
Okay.
The patch is not going to stick if you just glue it right on top of this lettering. I mean, the patch will stay on, but it won't hold there.
Okay.
So if it is on the lettering or something like that, you'll need to sand it down. If you have some kind of power sander, great. If not,
we like grinders out here.
Yeah,
so.
that's the way to go.
Okay.
If you don't have that with you, everything you need is in the kit. So there is
Okay.
a ton of sandpaper in here, which we'll show you how to use it. You know, do the sanding with that too. But
cool.
The sandpaper is included. The next thing is a lot of people put way too much adhesive. We get comments that are like, "There's not enough adhesive in the kit. I used a whole adhesive for one patch." Like, too much adhesive.
Doesn't it come with like 4 bottles of adhesive? Like,
yeah.
You use all 4 bottles on that thing?
Yeah, right. So you should use less than 1 bottle for a patch, regardless of the size of the patch.
Gotcha.
So we'll go through that and exactly how much to use, but also in the kit, there's a card that shows you exactly the spacing of the dots that you need to have the best result when you're applying the patch.
Gotcha.
So I think those are the 2 biggest things, the prep and then using the right amount of adhesive.
Yeah, right amount. So more glue is not more better?
No, that's right.
Gotcha. We need a t-shirt that says that.
Yeah, right.
All right, cool. So let's open this guy up and start patching here. So inside we've got the accelerator. We'll get to that in a little bit here. What size patch do you think would be the better one? That one might actually cover it. Or we can slap the big boy on there.
Yeah, either one of those will work. The other thing you can do, you can cut that with a pocket knife, with scissors, with anything you might have. So if you want to use this material, is slightly thicker than the smaller material you had here. So just depending on the damage, you can kind of see the difference there. It's very minor, but it does make a difference. So if you want to use a thicker patch for your damage, like if you're doing something more extensive like we are, you can take a 4-inch patch, cut it down to size, and then apply it that way.
Now, is the same rule about more glue is not more better? Does that apply to patches too? Like, is it more patches not more better?
Yeah, we recommend at least a 1/4 inch the whole way around, but really any scenario you can get more, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch is ideal.
Okay.
Around the damaged area, but sometimes that can be tough if you're up in here or if you're real close to lettering or whatever it might be. But right there, we should be pretty good.
Okay, so what if we cut this guy in half? It'll be slightly wider than this guy. I think that'll give us about 3/4 inch on all sides.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's trim this guy down.
Perfect.
And we'll start prepping our surface here.
Sounds good.
So we have our patch here, and if we're going to be tapering the edges so that it doesn't like catch on a rock and peel up one of the edges, is it easier to taper it now or once it's on the tire with like a Dremel or a blade or something?
Yeah, great question. Depends on the tool you have. If you're using like a knife or a razor blade, it's probably easiest to do it now, and you can just kind of trim the edges a little bit to taper them. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. But we have a Dremel with us, so if you have a Dremel or some kind of power tool like that, it's probably best to put it on and then sand the edges once it's already on the, or tape the edges once it's already on the tire.
Perfect. We have power tools, so we're going to do that option.
Yeah.
Cool. Our next step after we get our patch cut is to kind of prep the surface, right?
Yep.
So each kit comes with a bunch of sandpaper here, and there's a fun little notice here that says, hey, here's what the glue should look like, and more glue is not more better, right?
Yeah.
So one tip that you were telling me, which I really like, is you take one of these guys, take one of your patches that comes in the kit, put it on the back side. That way it just kind of helps you from tearing up your fingers as you're sanding this down and prepping the surface.
Yep.
So and then you want to get, you said, a nice wide range around your hole in your tire so that you have a nice prep surface all around to apply the patch to, right?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Perfect. Do we want to sand down the hole itself as much as possible, or?
Yeah, around the edges of the hole you do, but you don't need to actually sand on the inside of the damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this sandpaper will take off lettering as you go, but we've got power tools, and if you have power tools, I recommend going that route with a Dremel or a 4.5-inch grinder. But once we're sanded around here, we're pretty much good to go for gluing.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Next step we want to do is we want to get glue on the inside of this cut here. And there's a couple different things that kind of makes it easier to apply the glue in here. A is you want to get the sidewall up and open accessible. And you want to get the side of the sidewall that you're gonna be able to use gravity for the super glue. So like I'm doing this side, so the super glue goes down onto this. If I was doing the other side, I'd have to be pushing the super glue up onto it. So it just makes it easier. What we want to do is chop off the tip of the super glue to open it up. There, we've got it. And then these are just off-roading tires. We've got nice thick sidewalls. So you can just put something in to ply that outwards. And we're just gonna put our glue on. Right there, and then we're gonna go straight from this to push it in. We wanna get those as even as we can, those two surfaces.
And then just, yeah.
And just kind of hold it there and let it kind of start sticking.
So another common mistake we'll see here is we have this accelerator, which we haven't talked about yet. This accelerator, it's a spray bottle, and you can spray the adhesive and it'll dry it immediately. What people will do at this point sometimes is they'll spray it to dry this portion of the adhesive. You don't want to do that. You want to wait until the entire patch is on the tire before you apply the adhesive or the accelerator, because if the accelerator is on the tire when you put the adhesive on the tire for the patch, it'll just cure it immediately and then it won't bond to the patch that you're putting on. It's good to give it, you know, at least a minute to kind of like do its initial cure and whatnot, which is something you'll have to do anyway. You can also see here that we have some excess adhesive around the cut where we put it on. It came out from the cut, so we want to make sure we sand that down so that it's all new rubber to put the adhesive on before you apply the patch.
So we want to put it kind of somewhere in our clean area, but covering the cut. We want about, you said 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch on either side.
Yep.
So yeah, that looks good. We have a nice metallic thing to help show our spot where we're going to be putting down the adhesive for the patch. Anything will work as long as you can tell where your area is going to be, right?
Right. And like you were saying earlier, I mean, with dust on the tire like this, I mean, you can even use
just kind of do that. Yeah.
So
grab a rock and
leave
a little mark that way. Cool.
Yep.
So lots of different ways to do that. So next we have the adhesive and our patch. Is it better to put the adhesive on the patch or the tire?
Yeah, great question. We definitely want to put the adhesive on the tire, right?
Okay.
As it shows on this card that comes with the kit, you can see that the adhesive dots are actually on the tire, and those are spaced to scale, right? So you can actually follow that exact spacing pattern as you're putting it on the tire.
Okay.
And this portion of it takes some time, but it's important to do this carefully and make sure you hit all of your corners, because those are obviously the most vulnerable parts.
Yeah.
So it's important to do this carefully and not use too much adhesive through this portion of it.
How much time do we have to do this before it starts drying out and we have to sand it off and restart?
Yeah, great question. A lot of time before it's dried out, but it is good to keep in mind that as soon as you put it on there, it begins kind of the drying process.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Is it better to do it with the applicator tip, or does it matter?
Yep, absolutely want to use the applicator tip when you're putting the dots on, and you do want to make sure the whole thing's clean, including the patch. So here we go. So now once you put that patch on, you want to hold it. And you want to hold it for at least 30 seconds and apply the pressure as evenly as you can around the whole thing.
Especially on the edges, right? Because that's, as soon as you start peeling up an edge.
Yep. Like we were talking about earlier, that's like the most vulnerable point is always this leading edge.
Gotcha.
Right.
What if I like to drive in reverse a lot, Andy?
Then it would be the following edge. So one thing I like to do once we have this patch, once the patch is on here, is I come through with a bottle of adhesive again, and I'll just check the corners. Like our first drop was on this corner, and as you saw, it dripped down a little bit. So so we wanna, I'm gonna peel that back, and I'm gonna peel this back and put a little bit in there, a little bit more in there.
Okay.
And then hold that specifically. And just again, hold that till it bonds.
So the last step after we've kind of solidified the corners here is to get the accelerator and just spray around the edges?
Yeah, so the adhesive itself, it takes an hour to cure fully if there's no accelerator. So we do sell kits that don't include the accelerator, and you can totally use that if you're not in a hurry. All of our kits are 4x4 and side-by-side kits come with accelerator. And after you spray it with that, it's good to go right away.
Cool.
So that it's, you spray it on the tire just around like each corner, and then it'll actually cure the whole thing all the way around, and you're good to go.
Awesome.
So.
there a limit to how much should be on here? Or?
That's about right. Yeah, you don't need a ton. That was probably, yeah, that was plenty.
Cool.
We should be in good shape.
I'm gonna shine the tire after this. With it.
From here, we'll bevel down the edges. Another thing you can do if you have like soapy water with you is you can, as you inflate the tire, you can check it. Sometimes if there's a place, like you saw in this top corner when we first put this on, there was a drip. So if you have something like that where you want to test it, you get it inflated a little bit, test it, and then you can put more adhesive on before you bevel the edges.
Okay.
Something we can do, which we have some water we'll test with.
You
But
need to bevel the edges.
you don't need to bevel the edges. Yeah, we could leave it just like this and be fine. Since we're taking on a particularly demanding trail, we are
planning on using the sidewalls.
we are going to bevel them, but you absolutely don't need to.
Yeah.
I think it looks good. It looks good.
That's freaking solid, man.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It's
That's not coming up at all. Like, I can't. It's not going anywhere. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should be good.
Awesome, man.
Heck yeah.
Let's do the other tire.
Let's do it.
All right.